What's up? It is Wednesday, time for Matt Therapy, and that is our new theme song.
Woo,
Thank you,
woo.
Michael Klein. We are legit. We have a theme song. I am Donna Gonzalez, your host. As always, welcome. To my left, I have Miss Bexham Violence, Becky Dominguez. How are you, love?
What's happening? I'm fantastic. I got a maraca player next to me.
You do have a maraca player. To my right,
Is that what this is?
I have the lovely super producer, Lee Syatt, on the ones and twos.
Hello.
And in the house today, we have UFC and Versace's very own Alan Jouban. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Maraca player.
Thank you. What's up, guys? Good to be here.
What's
I
going on?
I like the song. It's kind of like Black Sabbath, kind of.
Is that what it sounds like?
Yeah, a little bit.
I thought it sounded like the
Nice
the
and-
tough intro. A little bit. Is that just me? I'm not
The
good with
Ultimate
it.
Fighter?
Yeah, that one.
yeah.
It's a nice,
I like it.
little
Is that-
medal to
I
your
liked
morning.
it. Thank you.
Nothing wrong with that.
Metal and coffee.
Well, thank you for
Right.
joining us today. How's your hand?
Where are these? These cameras all on?
That's you.
That's you.
That's me right here.
That's
yeah,
us.
the
That's
hands.
you and I.
That's us.
We share.
The hand's healing. It's 3 weeks after surgery, so it actually looks pretty good in comparison to
It
what
does.
was done.
It looks good.
But yeah, I mean, they ripped me open. They put in 2 titanium plates on both of the broken bones. They put in over a dozen screws holding those in place, and because of that, because of the titanium plates holding the bone together, I don't need a cast, so I could start physical
kidding.
therapy right away.
They never-
and start my movement. So I never was casted up. So I mean, I'd like it to be further along, but considering that 3 weeks out and I'm moving my hand around and I could use my
Right.
phone or whatever, I'm happy with it. It's
Nice.
good. Healing up.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
How long
Technology.
is the recovery time, did they say?
Broken bones are 6 to 8 weeks, so I definitely have at least a minimum of 8 weeks. And then after that, the doctor's saying I probably need a good month before I could punch again. Because
Right.
obviously we don't go back to clerical work. We go back to whatever the hell we do and beating people up.
Mr. Jouban, you can punch people in the face
Yeah.
in 8 weeks.
I'm
Thank
clear.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Now,
Yeah,
for
so-
everybody who doesn't know, you broke that on someone's face,
Broken on someone's face, yeah. So second round.
I do that all the time.
right?
2 minutes
Like
into
you
the
do.
fight. Yeah, broken on his. I hit him right between the eyes, right on the forehead, and
a hard
dropped
one.
him, but he jumped back up, and I broke it right there. And it probably was the severe break right there, but I hit him again about a minute later, and I felt another severe pain. I knew then that it was
Something was wrong.
Something was wrong. It was I couldn't punch with it anymore, so just had to kind of
Damn it.
dance my way to a victory after that.
So
But you
like,
still had your hand raised at the end. We were
it.
all like,
You stressed
Yeah.
us out along the way.
I know.
All of us were like,
And I got a lot of shit for that. They're like,
Really?
Alan, you always fight like that. You always, do these exciting fights, but like, you try not to get hit as much. And that was my goal. This fight, my goal was, be technical, avoid damage, put him away. That was my goal. And if you watch the fight, I'm just defending myself. If you watch the fight again,
that's what you're here for.
you'll
Do it.
notice I didn't even really get punched until I broke my hand. I mean, I was, and look, I respect my opponent, Bilal Muhammad. He's already have another fight lined up. I got respect for him, but the competitive side of me, I was destroying him. I mean, I dropped him 3 times
Yeah, you
in
did.
7 minutes.
Yeah.
I never really even got hit until then. Then I broke my hand. He knew he was down. He had to come on strong. He had to finish me, and I had no left hand. He knew that I wasn't throwing this punch anymore. That's when I got hit like 50 times. So before that, I was sticking to the game plan.
But you do like to give your friends heart attacks in your
Yeah,
fights.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, we all text each other and we're like, oh my God, who's I?
Why is he
Um,
doing that? Yeah.
yeah, there was about 7 heart attacks throughout that fight.
I've always
Minutes.
wondered that. What is that like? Because we've seen fighters continue throwing with like broken appendages. Like, so you actually feel pain during the fight. It sounds silly, but I just imagined it was all like adrenaline, and then you went back to your corner. You're like, oh, my arm's kind of wobbly.
I remember that. I remember thinking the same thing. Like, I think, was it Uriah Faber that
Yeah,
broke his
where
hand?
He broke both of them and he had to use his elbows for like.
And they were like, and I remember
3 rounds.
It might be like a tall tale or something where they're like, once you break it, it'll go numb and you can punch with it again. Fuck that. Dude. My
Like,
shit.
that shit hurt.
That shit does
There's
not.
not
go
enough
numb.
adrenaline in
I
the
mean,
world to...
I don't know. Maybe. No, it was not going numb because I punched him with it like twice after that, and it hurt like hell. I even tried slapping him with it, and that was so
I
deterring.
remember. I was like, did he just slap?
Yeah, I was slapping just because it was like instinctual. He was within range, so I was like, I gotta hit him.
You need
but
something.
And like when I saw that, I knew like, man, if my hand wasn't broken, I would have put him away.
Yeah.
Because I was slapping him, I was landing slaps. But yeah, it does not go numb. That's a myth.
Where? Okay, so 2 questions. First, you know what the Stockton slap is, right? Where are
I
you
do.
from? You're from Baton Rouge?
I'm from Lafayette, Louisiana.
From
yeah.
Okay, so the Lafayette slap.
The Lafayette slap. Yeah, well, I mean, now I'm going to have a pimp slap, a bitch slap. 'Cause now I've got titanium on the back
Are you
of my
going to
hand.
start doing the backhand?
Yeah, so
All
maybe
right.
now I could throw like, a straight left and then backhand it on the combo. So
I'm sure you know this, and actually, this could lead to another question. You know how football players, and you've heard like soccer players, when they like pop their ACL, they hear it. Did you hear your hand break? Is that a weird question?
and
Is that
I've
possible?
torn my ACL as
I know
well.
you have, but yeah.
But I didn't hear it because when I dropped them, it just happened. But I felt I felt like a pressure pain in my hand after that. The second time that I hit him with it again, the one that I said that really hurt, I like felt that I hurt it. It was that I either think that I broke the second bone on the second punch, or it was just the bones shifting, and that shifting like clicking sound that I felt and heard. Didn't want to do that shit again.
That is just lovely. Fucking lovely.
Aroma, guys.
All right. Yeah. So you
Sponsor.
call me.
I know, right?
We'll take sponsors.
That's a spot though. Me and Nicole, our first date. My wife Nicole, our first date was at Aroma. We got engaged at Aroma.
I was gonna say you proposed to her there.
I proposed.
Hi,
yeah.
Nicole.
Yeah. So Aroma's like our go-to spot.
Aw, so cute.
Clear my throat.
So you did not start out in the world saying, I'm going to go be a fighter. You wanted to play soccer
Yeah.
originally, correct?
Yeah.
So you came up playing soccer in Louisiana, and
Yeah.
that was your trajectory, right? You wanted to go pro.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to be a soccer player, but at the same time, I was still young. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I played soccer from 3 till about 18 or 19. So I played year-round. I was like on a select team, which means that we traveled from state to state, playing the best guys out of that state. So I was on a high level, but at the same time, I was still young and dumb, man. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. We would go to soccer tournaments, and, like, we're there playing, like, 3 or 4 games in 100-degree heat in Texas, but yet, in between games, me and my buddies would go, like, smoke in the corner and shit. So we didn't have that, like, I didn't have, like, that mindset, that focus that I wanted to be the best in the world. I was like, I'm good at this. I'll be a professional soccer player. My senior year in high school, I tear my ACL halfway through the season. I don't get to try to go on and go to college with it or pursue it. And after that, it was kind of when the modeling thing happened. I moved to New York and said, screw it. I'm not playing soccer anymore. And from that point, I was always kind of looking for what I wanted to do because me personally, and maybe a lot of other people are like this, but I always was like, I want to find what I'm going to do in life because I want to be badass at it. I want to master it. If you're taking your black belt, if getting your black belt takes 10 years, I want to start getting my black belt in whatever I'm going to do in life right now. I don't want to start finding my passion at 35 and become a black belt later in life. So I just was trying to find that, and walking into a gym, finding, fighting in martial arts, that was what I wanted.
Yeah. Well, but you were already a fairly successful model at that point, right? So what did anybody, was there any talk like, bro, what? You're going to go get punched in the face? Your moneymaker is,
right.
It's your that's face. How you pay the bills. What are you going to go get punched for?
Right. This was my moneymaker. Now this is my moneymaker.
All
but
right.
It's getting a little fucked up.
Your hand model
Maybe,
days are over.
your moneymaker just got stronger.
Yeah.
I mean, there is titanium in there.
You're like Wolverine now.
Yeah,
Speaking
totally.
of hand
Did you
modeling,
have them put in a...
man, it is like Wolverine.
A claw that retracts.
I feel like I'm healing faster now. All of a sudden, this titanium's in my body. Speaking of hand modeling, did you see? So we're gonna probably talk about it later. But so I did a Versace thing. If you haven't heard of that
little
yet.
tiny company, you may have
Versace?
heard of it before.
Versace?
I think
Out of what? Italy, possibly.
Did
Little tiny
Italiano.
company.
Did
Little
anybody not
fashion
watch
company.
the movie Showgirls?
I
Versace.
didn't. Oh, she can say it.
It's Versace.
Versace. So I did a Versace ad a while back, obviously, and it just kind of dropped in London. It's coming out here in the States like next week. But what I'm getting at is in the picture, there's like big billboards and posters all over London. My hand is jacked up in the picture. And this is before I even broke my hand. I already had a jacked up hand from a fight years ago that I messed it up. And so my hand.
Oh, so that picture was before. I noticed it.
Yeah,
that was
a
before
year
this.
ago.
Oh, now I'm
gonna
Exactly.
look for it.
Yeah, that was a year ago. So like my hand was already really bad off from fighting, and then breaking it now. Yeah, everybody like I posted the picture the other day on Instagram, and everybody was like, "Damn, your hand's fucked up, dude."
That's
like,
the only reason I noticed. My eye didn't go to it, but I saw somebody say, "What's
really?
with your hand?" And so I looked at it. I was like,
I
"Whoa."
don't have to look it up.
Yeah.
and it's funny that like Versace didn't even edit that. You know what I think they were thinking
I'm
was
surprised.
because when they hired me on the job, I was like really nervous because
They didn't find like a hand model to like double your
yeah,
hand in
or
there.
just like Photoshop it or something. But when I first did the job, I was nervous. I was like, fuck, this is Versace. This is a big deal. So I was like, man, do I need to get like a pedicure or something, a manicure? Like, cause like I have like fighter's feet. I have like calluses and like I have messed up feet.
Yeah, but maybe they thought it brought a rugged sensibility
Exactly.
to the ad.
They said, don't do anything. Don't do facials. Don't do anything. Just don't even get a haircut. Just show up.
Don't even get a
We want it to look authentic. You know, but when you get there, they have everybody on the job.
Of course.
So that's what I'm thinking would happen. They wanted
They're
that
like, we don't want you to
authenticity.
do it. We just want
We'll take care of
control of it.
But yeah, they left my jacked up hand in the picture on the campaign, which is I mean, this might be like on the side of buildings or something. I'm gonna have a big ugly ass hand.
Well,
on the side
I'm
of
guessing
the-
that out of all those guys, that perhaps you're the only one that actually fights.
Yes and no. All the guys that they hired on that shoot were like martial artists and some
Oh,
type
really?
of. Well, I
That's
mean,
kinda
they
cool.
were models who knew how to do something, you know, whatever it was. So, but there was one guy that was a fighter. I mean, nobody was as far along in their career as me, but they had a couple guys that had a couple amateur fights. So,
All right, that's not bad.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought I just had this vision of like you in the court and going, now go like this. All right.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna go like this.
No, they had us warming up doing like dance routines and stuff, and it was like not my type of dancing. And I was just like, I'm just gonna shadow box because I don't want to do this shit.
Wait,
you know
what
I mean?
is your type of dancing?
I don't know, just like I guess like
Do you
in
two-step?
the club dance or something.
Snap?
But
Do you
this
snap?
was kind of like I don't know, some shit on Dancing with the Stars or something. So
We're
it
gonna need
wasn't
you to
my
do a
thing.
lyrical before we get started. That's the big.
Yeah, it was that. It was like that.
It's kind of interesting. Like when you think of the UFC or just MMA in general, you would imagine that most of the fans are men. But you, as a very good-looking man, do you have a lot of female fans, like more than most fighters might have?
I know where you're going already.
What am I missing?
I don't know.
Your super fan that gave
Yeah.
her your last herself
Princess,
her last
yeah.
name.
Princess Jouban.
Yanina, I think. Damn, I just called her out.
Yeah,
on
you
the
just
thing.
did.
Yanina,
She's
if you watch
she's
this,
super excited.
Don't
Shit,
tag
shout out.
yourself in all of his pictures anymore.
yeah, she tags herself, and she took my last name. Her name is Yanina Jouban on.
Oh, I
on
thought it was like
Facebook.
media.
Princess Jouban or something.
I don't know.
She's a super
Aw.
fan. I can answer that question for you, Lee. Yes, he has
Yes,
a
yes,
lot
he does.
of female fans. I remember being at a friend's house once, and her roommate knew nothing of fighting, nothing. And she was like across the room from me, and somebody asked me a question, and I was like, oh, I train at Legends MMA. And she was like, that's where Alan Jouban trains. And I was like, yeah,
Uh-huh.
They know.
that is correct.
They know. Legend, man. Chris Brady's gonna be back in town.
He is. What up, Brady?
Yeah, Brady's gonna be in town.
But
this
speaking
Friday.
of legends, so you know, it's kind of cool that I've pretty much watched your entire career unfold, and it's been really exciting. And obviously, I'm very invested in watching you. But one of my favorite stories about you is when you first started training. You were one of the very first friends I made when I started training at Legends, and I remember a lot of people weren't taking you seriously because of the model thing. And so Alan's response to that was really cool. He was like, it's cool, I got it. So he would come in and train, and then he would go get his own fights. Like, nobody would book fights for him. He would go get his own fight. So he actually came back with a belt and was like, I got a Muay Thai belt. You guys
Yeah.
want to book me fights now? And everybody was like, oh.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I appreciate the story.
Yeah, I remember that you were like, I don't need anybody. I will go prove to you that I'm here to do this. And when you did, everybody then started taking you seriously.
Yeah, no, that's I kind of almost forgot about it, but that's kind of absolutely correct because I was kind of my own manager for a long time. Before I got a manager, I would go to the gyms, I would call the gyms, try to get fights. I would call my sponsorships up. I mean, I did everything. That's how I found my current manager now, because one day I put I was just, stressing out and vented on Facebook, and he found me. But yeah, I was doing all that. I had like 10 Muay Thai smokers, and
I remember when you got your first belt. I was there. Yeah.
And the reason I got my start in MMA was, I mean, obviously after doing a bunch of Muay Thai fights, I started training with Eddie Bravo. We kicked it off really good. I started doing some jiu-jitsu tournaments, getting more knowledgeable on the mat. But I still hadn't had an MMA fight yet. And at the time, Chris Riley, still wasn't like quite taking me seriously yet, I think, when it comes to MMA, because he wasn't sure where my head was with the modeling and this and that. So Eddie Jackson, one of my longtime teammates, got injured about a week before the Tough Enough fights. I said, look, dude, let me take this fight. I promise I won't embarrass you. I promise I won't let the gym down. I'll fight really hard. And my goal is, I told him, I said, look, if I could fight 5 amateur fights this year, win them all, can I go pro? Because I was already, approaching 30 years old. I didn't want to be fighting amateur forever. And he's like, all right, cool, do it.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know. Won that fight, did 5 fights that year, went pro, and the rest is history. But that's what happened. Eddie Jackson tore his bicep. I stepped in place, 7 days notice, won the fight, and then never looked back.
Yeah. And it's been awesome to see you. I remember, You got to RFA, and we were like, oh my God, Alan's in RFA. And your first
the biggest thing ever.
fight, we had to apologize to our neighbors because we just lost our mind. We were like, oh my God. There were probably 8 or 10 people all related to legends there watching, and we all lost our minds. And then you got into the UFC, and we all like, it's, you're bringing like this, like, I don't know, this truck full of people that are like, we've been with you the whole time, Alan.
Yeah. No, it's great, man. It's great. I love seeing, like, now that I've reached, one of the dreams that I've had for so long. Now I'm seeing other people start to get there, and so I get to share in that emotion too. My teammate over at Saxon Muay Thai, Danielle Taylor, she's fighting this weekend.
She is. What's up, Danielle?
Yeah, exactly. She's fighting this weekend on the UFC card in Salt Lake City,
She's
Utah.
in Utah.
So it was so fun to see her. She was 7-1. She was a King of the Cage champion, and she was, in that fight where she's like trying to figure out what's the formula to get into the UFC. She didn't quite know it. She was a champion. She was winning, but when do you get that call? Somebody fell out last minute. She got the call. Next thing you know, she's there on like 2 weeks' notice fighting the number 8 girl in the world.
Damn.
That's
but
amazing.
For me, even though me and Danielle, I mean, she's like a 115 girl.
She's a
I'm
tiny
a 170
little thing,
guy.
yeah.
We don't really spar or get to work much because of the difference in size and everything. But like for me, it was like, man, I was so emotionally like just happy to see somebody that I knew like, come up the ranks, and get the phone call. Like I wanted to be there with Julio when he told her the news, because I remember when I got the news that I was signed to the UFC. I mean, it was literally the happiest day of my life. It was like Chris. It was just.
Tell us that story. How did you get the phone call?
I got it at like 12 o'clock at night, man. It sucked because it's the same thing we were speaking about earlier, I think, before we were on air. But I couldn't say anything at first because you have to let the UFC release it. So my manager was already putting in the emails to Joe Silva, going back and forth with Joe Silva. And he was telling me, like, man, it looks good. I sent him like a highlight reel of all of all your fights. I let him know that, like, you've had this many fight of the nights, you've had this many first round knockouts, you're perfect for the UFC. And so we were kind of waiting to hear back, and then like 12 o'clock at night, he goes, are you available to Skype? I was like, yeah, man, whatever. He goes, go get Nicole. And I kind of figured something was up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So me and Nicole were there in front of Skype, and he told me, man, and I just literally my eyes like watered up. And like I just wanted to call everybody that I knew, because it's like, not only do you reach your goal or your dream, but it's like, man, I'm going from fighting for like $500 was my pro debut. So now I get to make real money, and like 1 out of every 3 of my fights, I get fight of the night. Now, if I get fight of the night, I get $50,000. Like it could change.
Holy shit!
It could change my
like
life.
Change your life. Yeah.
Like my next fight, I could, my UFC debut, I made more in that one fight than I had probably made
in all
my fights combined, doubled. Yeah, absolutely. So
was that your Los Angeles fight?
That was my debut.
Yeah,
my debut was in
here.
Bangor, Maine, in Dana White's hometown. Right. So yeah, it's such an emotional thing. I went and I texted all my coaches.
You want to scream from the rooftops, I imagine.
Absolutely. I emailed my family this, I'm not really, I'm close with my family, but I don't always get too personal. But I emailed them this, almost like, I'd love to find the email one day, but I told them, I was like, I just want to let you guys know.
It's probably in your sent folder, right?
It's
right there.
Around the time that you got that call.
Where is it? In the sky somewhere? Where is it?
It's in the cloud.
Okay, in the cloud. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I emailed him this really kind of emotional email saying, like, look, like, I just want you to know, I know you haven't really always supported me in my fighting career, and I get it, but I finally made it to the UFC. I know this, you probably don't even know what that means, but it means everything to me, and like things are gonna change. My life's about to change. I'm about to make money. I'm about to be, a more well-known fighter, and this and that. And so that was what really got my family on board, because they didn't really support my career. They weren't negative against it, but they're just like parents. They're like,
that's nice, Alan.
Yeah, go get a real job, or like we don't want you to get hurt. But then all of a sudden, like people like stopping my mom in the market. They're like, "Aren't you Alan's mom?" And all of a sudden, she's like a proud mom. She's like, "Yeah, he's making weight." This week. All of a sudden, she's like knowledgeable. My mom called me the other day, and she's watching what's that show, Kingdom. She's like, "Do you watch Kingdom? We've been watching the series on Netflix or some shit like that." And I was like, "You watch Kingdom? You didn't even like fighting. Now you're watching a TV show about fighting." And it's like it's all about like I guess sex and drugs. Plus, it's got to be
it's the drama. Yeah.
And she's like, I hope it's not like that for you guys. I was like, I don't know.
You're
I mean,
I am married, and we're not. I go train
like
and then I go home.
Heroin in the gym or anything like that. But anyway,
the MMA
it was an emotional
do.
phone call, and so I love anytime I hear that somebody got the call to the UFC now. I love to be a part of it, because I love to just see those emotions, because I felt them before, and I love to see somebody else get that happy.
That's awesome.
It's always nice.
How long, like when on that Skype phone call? because it's interesting. I had a family member yesterday. I've been doing this full time for about almost 3 years. 3 years in November. And yesterday, a family member was like, "Hey, maybe you should go back and get a job in TV." I was like, nice. Like it was just a rough day, but then like, it must be so. Like, not even just like, was it happiness first, or when he tells you you're in the UFC, is it just like cold a little bit? Like it must be like, how many years were you working towards it?
Yeah, I mean, about 10 years. When I moved to LA 10 years ago is when I joined the Gym Bomb Squad, and literally, well, no, not literally at first, but at first I was fighting Muay Thai, but once I made up my mind that I was going to be an MMA fighter, I literally said, I told this to my family. I said, I'm going to be in the UFC. This is my 100% goal. I don't care about championship belts. I don't care about this. All I want to do is get to the UFC because I know I can make money and I know I can be successful there. So getting that phone call was just like, fuck, like it really,
it's
like,
happening!
yeah, you know, and I would dream about it every night. And I'm not even just saying that. Every night I would close my eyes and be like, God, like, to fight under the bright lights, to have Joe Rogan call my name, to have Bruce Buffer introduce me, to walk out to 20,000 screaming fans, to be able to get a fight of the night. I was getting fight of the nights all the time, and now and then I wouldn't get anything. Now and then I would get a $1,000 check. But I was like, fuck, dude, I'm one of these fight of the night guys that a high percentage of my fights are fight of the night. If I can get $50,000 every time I do that, I mean, that's life changing. So, getting that phone call, it was crazy, man. It was so fun.
I think, Lee, maybe what you were getting at is that the way some people might take that kind of situation, like you accept it, you know, you called your family and said, hey, I finally made it. Other people, I think, would probably look at their family and be like, fuck you weren't here for me this whole time coming up.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's
I don't know if you say that to your family. You might say that to your haters coming up.
But I think there's some people that would kind of feel that way, like, oh, you weren't here to support me. You didn't believe in me while I was coming up, and now I'm here, and now you want to jump on board. I don't know if that's kind of where you're going with it.
That's not exactly. I see that happening. My situation wasn't that they don't believe in me. It's just their family.
Right.
They've had regular jobs their entire life, and they don't want me to be 30 and suddenly broke. So I get it.
Yeah.
But it's like,
it's hard.
It just takes the wind out of your sails for like a few minutes. You're like, like they don't think I'm gonna do it, and but it also can motivate you. I'm sure having people doubt you motivates you a little bit.
For sure.
No one ever wants. Well, even though you might want to have everything go easily, I feel like that doesn't usually end up working out.
And it makes it so much more enjoyable when you do actually reach it. I mean, when you're putting your nose down and just say, you know what, my family doesn't quite support me. I get it. It's not a high percentage. I mean, it's probably a higher percentage to become a successful actor or to become an amazing singer than it is to become a fighter, be good at fighting, and make it out of the amateurs, make it to the pros, and then out of all those thousands and thousands of guys that have a couple pro fights to get selected to the UFC. And I'm not trying to like boost myself up. I'm just saying it's a small percentage.
And then stay in the UFC.
Yeah, and then stay there too, exactly. But there's no magical formula. It's not like, okay, if you get 5 wins in a row, you get selected. Because there's guys out there that fight on the regional shows all the time who are badass and they would do great in the UFC, but they just haven't got the call yet. Yeah. Maybe they lose a fight here and there. Maybe something that their style that the UFC didn't like. Maybe they don't have a good manager. I don't know what it was, but for me, I was just like, what the hell do I have to do to get in here? So when I got in there, it was just like, time to rejoice. No, I was really thinking time to stay. You know, not just in and out. Stay here.
And now you're at how many fights?
7 was my last fight. So yeah, I'll be
how
my
many
8th fight.
How many fight of the nights have you had? In the UFC?
Three bonuses since I've been there. Yeah.
Was your LA show? I keep asking this for a reason. Your LA show, was that your first fight of the night?
No, my debut, my UFC debut. Bangor, Maine, first round knockout. That was a
first round knockout, yeah.
First round knockout. So I got the win, I got a knockout, and I got a bonus in the first fight. So it was just
you were like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, I know.
That's the way. That's the way to come in.
Because if anybody wants to go back and watch that, who did you fight?
Seth Pazinski.
Pazinski.
Was that last year? Was that the beginning of last year?
It ended up getting one of Dana White's fights of the year, even though it was on like a 2-minute fight.
It was a fantastic fight, and there's this moment. Go back and watch it, you guys, especially if you're a fan of Allen's and if you're a friend of his, and you'll see this moment in his eyes where you knock him out, and that's when you ran and jumped on the cage, and like I saw you take in the moment. Yeah, you were like, holy shit, this is my moment, and I saw it sink into your face, and there's a beautiful shot of it. You should frame that shot, and you see yourself like just take it in. Yeah, and it's a beautiful moment, especially knowing what you'd been through to get there.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. It's funny because I didn't know what to do. I remember that moment, and I ended up kissing the camera.
I remember that.
I don't know why. But I kissed the camera. But that's what it was. I knocked him out. And it was one of those, sometimes they say it's the punch that you don't really try to knock the guy out that knocks him out. And it was one of those. I was just throwing punches to survive. He goes down. And then I'm like, I just won my UFC fight. What do I do now?
Yeah.
I just started walking around like it was a dream or something. So yeah.
Yeah. Now, does Cage, your little boy, understand what you do?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's 3.5, so he was born into this. You know what I mean? It's in his blood. He's always seen me as a fighter.
His name's Cage.
His name's Cage. Yeah. So but I mean, he's understanding it a lot more. I try to always stress that like Daddy does this for a living, and I always tell him the reason that we have this house, the reason that you buy these toys for you, the reason that you get to go to this great school is because Daddy fights for a living, and this is his job. I don't beat people up, and I always try to like really push, like, you know what Daddy hates the most? Bullies. You know what Daddy does to bullies? I beat bullies up. Okay, I don't like bullies, because I don't want him to be a kid that like, because I see it when he's confident, he's overly confident. He walks around with his chest out, like he sees me at weigh-ins where I'm like flexing my muscles and I'm in the guy's face, and he does that same routine every day. And like when he's very confident, he comes off as a bully to other kids. And so I just try to let him know, like, Daddy does this only because it's this night, that's Daddy's job to fight the guy. But I'm not mad at the guy, so I always try to stress that, because I don't want him to grow up thinking like, my dad's tough, I'm tough, we could beat people up. So I'm always trying to separate that. But he definitely knows what I do.
But he would definitely not be lying if he, a kid like my dad could beat your dad up. I'm pretty sure that would be accurate. Yeah. No, really, he could. I mean, he's a UFC fighter.
Seriously. Yeah.
No, most people who watch you fight know you as a striker, but you're a brown belt. Yeah. You're a legit guy on the ground. Yeah, I got to dust that belt off, man. That was my goal, though. I mean, my goal was after this fight to go and just submerge myself in jiu-jitsu, because I haven't been giving my jiu-jitsu much love lately, and that was the goal, just to go to jiu-jitsu for like 2 months straight, just only jiu-jitsu, and just really get my game sharp again, and then go back to training the normal way. But obviously with a broken hand, I wasn't able to do that. But it's so tough, man, because
it's far too. No.
What's that?
The gym is far from where you live.
It's far, and I travel all the time because I live in Reseda, and then I drive an hour to Black House every day or every other day, and hour there, 2-hour training session, hour back. That's a lot of your day, and then recovery, and then and then 10th Planet I teach multiple days a week, and then 10th Planet HQ is almost an hour drive now that it's downtown. So I mean, now that I'm in Reseda and it's downtown, but I instinctually when I fight, I like to if I knock a guy down and he's on his knees or whatever, I don't instinctually think let me backpack him, or whatever, let me jump on him. I think let me just punch him, let me beat the shit out of him, let me try to knock him out.
Let me catch him coming up or something.
And so that's instinctually how I fight. So what happened is, like, after a certain number of fights, I kind of thought, you know what, like, I'm splitting everything up. Twice a week I go to jiu-jitsu, twice a week I do my striking, twice a week I do sparring, twice a week I do wrestling, and so on and so on. And it's really making me get good at MMA at a slow level. I'm getting good at my entire game, but everything is only getting a little bit better, a little bit better. And I was like, if I'm striking in a striking position for 95% of my fights, and that's instinctually my go-to, let me really make sure my striking is as sharp as it could be. So I pulled back from the jiu-jitsu about 2 fights ago, just so I can make sure my striking was always on point. After my loss to Albert Tumanov, which I wasn't striking that much for that fight, I just said, let me focus on my striking, let me focus on my wrestling. My jiu-jitsu is there because I don't really go to my jiu-jitsu, but if I get in a bad spot, I'm a brown belt, I know how to defend it.
You used it in RFA, right? I remember you going to the ground a couple times in your RFA fights.
Yeah, I used to use my jiu-jitsu a lot more, and honestly, I learned a lot from it. I learned not only what works in MMA, or not what works, but what's a higher percentage of jiu-jitsu in MMA, but also when to go to it. Because when I fought RFA, my second fight, they gave me a title shot. And the guy that I went against was coming out of Duke Rufus's gym, and he was a really good striker. And they were promoting this fight. They had the commercials on Access TV saying like 2 of the best strikers in the sport. They were promoting it like this was going to be a striking war. I get into this fight, and this guy's taking me down every single round. He said he found the hole in my game. Alan doesn't do wrestling, and I'm comfortable on my back. I'm a 10th Planet guy, so I was like, anytime we got in a 50-50 type position in wrestling, I would say, okay, I'm going to my back. I'm going to pull rubber guard, and I would pull rubber guard on him every time. And I have a decent rubber guard. I'm not hugely flexible, but I have enough flexibility to hold you down, drop some elbows. But it wasn't winning me the fight. I was dropping elbows, and I was on the verge of completing submissions. But in the judge's eyes, I was losing. So I ended up losing that fight. 5 rounds, he took me down. I mean, there was a lot of striking going on. We were both bloody. but I lost that fight because he out-wrestled me. So after that, I said, you know what? Like, I need to just do more wrestling. When I get into this 50-50 position, I need to not give up the takedown and go to my back. I need to fight like I'm on hot coals before I go to the ground. If I go to the ground, like Eddie says sometimes, like if you can't get up, then go to it. And
he talks about it being worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario. And so that's what I took my jiu-jitsu, and when it comes to MMA, me personally, my style, the way my body is and the way I think, striking is what I do. It's what I love. It's my instinct. If I hit the ground, try to get the fuck back up. If I can't get up, pull guard, go for 1 or 2 submissions. If the guard's not there, I'll let him advance. I'll go to half guard just so I can stand up, just so I can get into the dogfight position and stand up. And that's somewhat my mentality, the step ABC that I take when it comes to MMA now. So just being that the submission was kind of like the third thing that was on my mind, I kind of let jiu-jitsu sit on the sidelines for a little bit. But like I said, man, all I wanted to do right now is just submerge myself in jiu-jitsu, but I can't. But it'll probably be the first thing that I do when I come back, because the last thing I could do is punch.
Right.
You know, so I'll probably be hopefully on the mats in about a month.
Yay. We'll be happy to have you.
What would you have to worry about? Wrist locks, I guess.
Yeah, right. I'll just I'll put a big like sign on my wrist.
No wrist locks.
But I'm thinking,
at least not on that side.
Even if I can't like have an amazing grip, I'm thinking with a broken hand, I could at least work some type of I'll work some guard game or something. You know.
Do you find it frustrating that judges don't recognize being on fighters being offensive on their back?
Well, I mean, I get it now. I mean, I guess you kind of acclimate to the system in any sport. You know, you know how it's scored, and so you have to adjust to that system. You've seen it though in the past with Ben Saunders when he had that fight when he was he fought he fought that guy who was a wrestler, and the guy kept taking him down, but Ben was landing elbows from rubber guard. Yeah. And Ben ended up getting the split decision win, I believe. And that was like the first time in the UFC, in the highest level, that I've seen judges recognize that even though the guy's on his back, he's landing offensive strikes, and he's going for submission attempts, and the guy was bloodied up. I think blood has a lot to do with it, though. As funny as it sounds, Ben was landing elbows, but it wasn't until he cut him and it was blood dripping down the guy's face. The guy was in Ben's guard on top trying to punch Ben, but Ben was still landing elbows, and now the guy's bleeding from inside of Ben's guard, and therefore they gave Ben that round, which eventually won him the fight. So that was the first time I've seen it. Speaking of that, too, I think just yesterday they had
I was just about to ask you
an
that.
MMA rule change. You know, a lot of Big John McCartney and a lot of guys spoke, and as of yesterday, the rules have changed.
Yeah,
so they changed
rules.
Yeah, like the more prominent one that I've seen was like, now instead of you having one fingertip on the ground where guys are playing, every time before a fight we have rules meetings, and they say, look, if you're playing this game where like I'm touching, I'm not touching, I'm touching, I'm not touching, and you get kneed in the face, that's your fault, man. If your hand's flat on the ground and it's obvious that you're a downed opponent, then you can't get hit. But if you're trying to touch the ground before you get kneed, then, and so that was kind of a gray area in fighting, and guys were playing that game, and referees were having a tough time.
Now it's not. Yeah.
Now they say it has to be 2 hands. 2 hands is the ground.
Two hands or two. You have to have either flat hands or your fists flat on the mat.
Oh, that's interesting.
That is what constitutes a down opponent now. If
2 hands on the mat.
So now 1 hand on the ground, you can.
It's not a down opponent. Yeah,
so, exactly, because that's what's happening.
Oh,
usually,
that's game changer.
Usually you're in a wrestling position. One guy's got like an overhook, and now he's touching the mat to be safe. But now, look, if you get an overhook, you're gonna get kneed in the face. You
game
let
changer.
go of it, or
that's a big.
It is a game changer. You're gonna see a lot of like transitioning scramble areas that are gonna be a lot different now.
Yeah, there's actually a few new rules. There's one that says for the judging, what you guys were just talking about, it says that there's clarity and scoring criteria, that the 2 most important are striking and grappling, and only if those are equal do you judge aggression and cage control. And then,
say that again.
So the first 2 that they're going to look at are striking, effective striking, and grappling.
Okay.
And if it said only if those 2 are equal, then they judge.
So it sounds like they are going to start taking grappling into a little bit more account.
Oh yeah, and then there's for the 10-8 round, they want people to do it more, so they're looking for dominance, duration, and impact or damage. And if a round has 2 of those characteristics, a 10-8 round should be considered.
Interesting.
And
then they're trying to promote more 10-8 rounds.
Right.
To make it more. Okay.
They want more 10-8 rounds. You already talked about the grounded fighter. This one,
women's
fingers.
Uniform as well.
Yeah,
extended fingers.
There's a woman's fight. There's female clothing, but then extended fingers is going to be a penalty now.
Huge.
It's going to be a foul.
And it's. I mean,
give us your thoughts.
The eye gouging. Now you can't judge the distance by extending your fingers. You have to have a fist. You know how fighters go like this, and that's how eye pokes happen? So no longer. They have to have a fist.
It's either a fist or, well, unless the rules change, but as far as I'm aware, your hand has to be up.
Oh, okay. So it's either fingers
it just can't be straight.
or fingers
down. It can't be straight. And like my last fight, fight.
I feel like you do that, don't you?
Yeah, I got warned like 3 times, and maybe one time my hand hit his face, but another couple of times my hand was up, and the guy kept saying, you know, I was eye poking him, and you could see me during the fight talking to Herb Dean. I was saying, look, my hand was up, you know, that shouldn't be a foul, but I kept getting warned. So I guess they're just trying to clear that up as well. But that makes sense. I mean, you get poked in the eye. There's a lot of fight. My teammate Kevin Casey, I mean, he had a fight inning eye poke 2 fights ago, and you see it all the time with John Jones, obviously. So I think they just wanted to say, look, we make a warning and we penalize you for groin shots. Why not eye pokes? You know.
Well, because when you look at like football or the NFL, baseball, they have rule changes almost every year. And this, at least in the 4 or 5 years I've been a UFC fan, I haven't, unless maybe they just haven't been as publicized, I haven't seen any big rule changes.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Every year they're trying to protect the quarterbacks a little bit more, and they're trying to protect guys from concussions. So why wouldn't they do it in the most, you know, combative sport alive?
Absolutely.
Out there, so.
It's going to keep happening, and people are always going to keep finding their way around it. That's the other thing. I mean, we talked about it with jiu-jitsu, and like now the submission only and EBI rules,
and how people can game the system.
People
on
are
that,
still going to learn how to game the system even with that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even in EBI, like even the first one, I feel like I caught onto the rules real fast. When it comes to like the overtime part, I'm like, just hold on to that. Like
right.
when I see people and it's like it's their last overtime round and it's very close, a 10-second lead one way or the other, and they're going for a submission right away. I'm just like, fucking backpack them for like a minute and then go for the submission. Give yourself some time. You know?
Some ride time.
Some ride time.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see it now. People are kind of catching on. Like, get the ride time, then go for the submission.
for sure.
There's actually a couple more things.
Female clothing.
Female clothing, which could you guys explain? Because
that?
So
I don't really understand
there were complaints of some of the ladies wearing rash guards or shirts that are too loose. And we've talked about this. When you wear a cotton shirt to train in,
fucking annoying.
As soon as you start to sweat, it expands and it becomes dangerous for your opponent because their fingers can get wrapped up in it, their toes can get wrapped up in it. So one of the new rules is that women have to either be wearing fitted sports bras or rash guards that are...
I thought they were.
I guess that they didn't have to.
I think Reebok has a couple options where they were like, you know, some were a little bit baggy than other. Like, you know, Ronda
I
Rousey.
feel like I've never noticed it, but maybe.
I think Ronda Rousey had that one kind of like lace one that her boob almost popped out that one time. That was a bit much.
There should be full
Well, I think the
coverage.
first time I remember one of her early UFC fights, she was wearing like super short shorts, and she was just like, "I'm not wearing that short again."
But you see sometimes in the UFC girls wearing the kind of like boy shorts or whatever, and like they get in a weird position and their butts hanging out.
Well, that's
and
what
like,
happened to her, and she was like, I'm not doing that anymore.
I think that's part of it too, because there's those odd moments when the camera's like focused on the girl's ass right there and everything. So
and
I
a
could
sports
see
bra,
that,
some
you know,
sports bras go, and you get in certain positions where you're clinching, and it, you know,
If
causes
you're not,
the cleavage to pop out, and you're not.
Look, I
trying.
have an opportunity for a plug here. If you're not a lady who already trains, it might be a little bit hard to design clothing for ladies who train when you don't know what's going on. So maybe Reebok didn't have enough experience with women who fight in order to
Properly
design you know, proper attire. Matt Therapy, on the other hand, is coming out with a line of apparel for ladies who train.
Nice.
who do train.
And we know
we
what's
understand
up.
the issues.
So look for that soon.
Are you reading a teleprompter?
No, I'm not.
somewhere?
I'm looking at the
She's
camera.
just looking at
Okay.
She's trying to be a commercial.
Nice. Okay, yeah.
And then
She went into voiceover mode.
I did.
didn't know
Oh, she
what
totally does that. You didn't see it on the intro?
looking for
I'm
you.
Donna Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Hey, we're trying to run a professional show here, you motherfuckers.
and it's
That's when she goes into actress mode.
Yeah.
and it's kind of there's 2 more things I want to bring up.
Please, Lee.
It says that because it says the changes also remove 2 fouls: heel strikes to the kidneys and grabbing of the clavicle.
Yeah.
Heel strikes
to the
clav-
kidney.
So that's probably
Kidney.
if you're in full guard. If you have somebody in full guard, you could probably.
Oh, and you're
can't
like
kick up?
doing.
no,
you
well,
can
you
now.
could.
Like
you could
kind of-
Oh, when you're in full guard and then you kick
heal
back on them.
and-
Okay.
Yeah.
And then,
the Gracie style.
Okay.
This like one of these things.
no, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you, Becky.
And then you can
What
grab
was the other one?
Grab the clavicle
You
now.
can grab the clavicle?
So
Yeah.
rape choke.
I guess.
No. Grab the, like
What do you
a
mean?
meat hook?
Oh, like
Like a meat hook?
like this.
How do you grab the clavicle?
Maybe a choke.
Oh, you mean like a rape choke from the front?
That's
I
what
don't
I was
know.
thinking.
Yeah, I
but
guess.
I thought that was already allowed. Wasn't it already allowed?
I don't really know.
What exactly? The clavicle is exactly the throat or the
It's
bone?
this
I think
is
it's
your
probably right
clavicle.
here.
Yeah.
Like the collarbone.
Yeah.
Like that. Like
No, wait.
I've never.
Wait, you can or you can't
You
grab
can.
it?
Those aren't fouls anymore.
It says you can grab.
The
I'm
clavicle.
confused. Do they mean like you can grab the throat area? Or why would they say you
That,
can
like,
grab a
in guard, you can meat hook the clavicle?
I guess it says.
No.
Yeah, it says.
Somebody call Big John.
call
Get
Big-
him on Twitter.
How do you? I mean,
I'm not.
have
calling
you
him.
ever thought to?
Call Herb. Do you have Herb's number in there?
And then
Call Dana.
the only thing that the last thing is it says that New Jersey didn't approve the new definition of grounded fighter. So I guess fights in New Jersey.
So they can still one hand down or fingertips down in Jersey?
I guess so.
Hey, are you?
Yeah, the clavicle is this bone right here. So I don't know.
Have you ever
what do
thought to, like-
stick somebody's your finger in somebody's clavicle?
Yeah.
bone?
Have
But
you
I
ever
could
thought
see
you'd
using
get-
a meat hook, but that's about it. Why not just grab the armpit though?
But, I mean, what kind of control do you feel like you can get from there?
Clavicle control.
I don't
It's a
know.
new thing.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna be killing with it.
I don't know. Whatever.
Seriously. You got,
I
you
need
got
to write
Herb's
this
number
down.
there? Text him and ask him what's
Yeah,
what's
the
up with
clavicle is the collarbone. I've broken both of them.
I just lost my train of thought.
Clavicle control.
Clavical control.
Well, I
It's
mean,
my new favorite.
we were talking about how
Oh,
they
I
don't
remember. Go ahead.
how they don't change the rules, but now is it gonna take you a while to like readjust your training to not do all these things that you used to be allowed to do?
You big eye poker.
I imagine that down fighter thing
Yeah, I
would
mean,
be
I
the
don't-
biggest.
Body awareness?
That one probably would be the biggest. I don't think any of those really you'd have to adjust training because of it. I think it's just like before every fight they're gonna have the rules meeting with you, and I think they're just gonna note those. They'll probably say, look, and now with the rule change, make sure if you put a hand down, it has to be two hands down, you know, or if the eye poke, they go over that every time anyway because those are already issues, so they would always speak about it a bunch of times. So I think they'll just bring it up in the rules meetings and stuff.
There will also be a ref in the cage that can yell at people
That's
to
true.
remind them. New rule.
Well, I mean, they can remind you, but
Two
there's
hands.
also, I mean, how much of it is muscle memory where you're like you could just be reaching in and be like, oh no.
It's body awareness.
I mean, that's the only one that's really tricky because, like, I'm never trying to intentionally poke somebody, but I get it. Like, when somebody's, if you're in in transition of position, like you're not in your normal stance, and then somebody's throwing a strike at you, your instinct is to kind of like block.
Right.
And so maybe you don't have your hands completely up or in a fist, and sometimes that gets called that, you're getting close and they warn you or whatever. So I mean, that's just something that maybe you could try to train yourself, but it's gonna happen. Like anytime somebody tries to hit you, you're gonna want to block it.
So when they say foul, then they're not gonna disqualify you. They'll just like give you a couple warnings and then maybe deduct a point. But
Warnings and then a point deduction. Yeah.
has a point deduction ever like been like the deciding factor in a fight?
Yes.
Has it really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Big
It's
time.
dangerous. Yeah. If you lose a point, let's say you're.
I can't give you a
two
specific
rounds-
fight, but
well,
I've definitely seen it.
How about for instance, you guys are one person has 1 round. It's a 3-round fight. One person won the first round. One person won the second round. If you lose a point,
That
the
third round makes it or
that
breaks it for
could
you.
break the fight for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you'll see a lot of draws because of that too, because it's a 10-8 round and somebody else won 2 rounds. So it'll a lot of times it'll end up in a draw or something like that. But yeah, it's a determining factor for sure.
Would you like to see a fighters union at some point?
That's a good one.
Man, that's an interesting question because there's stuff going on right now. I don't know if I could speak about it. There's some confidential stuff going on, not to sound
Oh, I'm sure.
cuckoo, but yeah, there's stuff in act right now, man. There's there's a law firm right now working with fighters at this moment as we speak, and they're it's in the works. It's in the works, and they're trying to
good.
get guys to join. And in my eyes, would I like to see it? Yeah, I mean, why not? Because if it's going to protect us more, if it's going to allow us to make a lot more money. And if it's going to give us better benefits and take care of our families during and after
Why
fighting,
wouldn't you want that?
Why wouldn't
Right.
we want that? Yeah. Is it going to happen? I mean, I hope so. I think what happens, like anything, is you need leaders to step up. You can't
Right.
have guys that are new in the UFC yelling about it. They don't care. It's like white belts trying to,
Trying to teach,
trying
yeah.
to teach class or something. Nobody
Yeah.
cares. You need the black belt. You need the more recognizable names. You need the big names like the Mark Hunts, the Misha Tates, people like that to keep speaking up about it, and then people will jump on board. People will listen. But they are working with it. I mean, for the research that I've heard on it is something like most sports like NBA, they're making NBA, NFL. The athletes are making about 50% of the earnings each year that the NBA is making. The athletes, 50% of that money that they're making is being distributed amongst the athletes. In the UFC made around $600 million last year. Only 10% of that went out to the fighters.
Jeez.
So we're getting underpaid a lot. If we were making 50% of whatever the UFC was making, and that was distributed amongst the 600 fighters, we'd be all averaging somewhere around, I think it was $500,000 a year would be the
Yeah.
average fighter pay. Where right now the average fighter pay is probably like $20,000 a year.
That's not even what a bench warmer in the NFL makes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even the third place kicker, the
Yeah.
third string kicker probably gets $300,000 in NFL.
Right.
So it's a substantial difference. So would I like a union? Obviously, if I would be making, if I could probably be guaranteed $500,000 a year to be in the UFC, I mean, that's like not only reaching my dream, but now I'm like able to take care of my family.
Yeah.
And some. So I would love it, but like I said, it's I feel like it's in the works more so than ever, but they still have a long way to go.
Yeah. So now that you've reached the dream of making it into the UFC, I imagine now.
What's the next dream?
You've upped that to maybe titles or
title
belts.
contentions. Yeah, I mean it's definitely something that and you heard in my last fight they were saying like Allen's almost 35 years old. If he's gonna make a title run, it needs to be now. And trust me, I think about that all the time. So with that said, Robbie Lawler, 34 years old. Tyron Woodley, 34 years old. What's his name? The jiu-jitsu guy who's a welterweight. He's in like the top 5.
Ferguson?
Damian Maia.
Oh.
Yeah.
Damian Maia is like 38 or some shit. He's old.
Yeah.
Okay. So for welter, I'm saying. What are you 38?
Look, Randy Couture fought when he was 46. Okay.
Are you 38? We won't bring it up.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
I'm 34.
I'm not
I'm
38.
34.
Okay.
I'm just saying, some of the oldest fighters in the division, oldest of those, are at the top of the game. Okay,
Yeah.
and the oldest welterweight in the division is probably Damian Maia, 38 years old. I don't know any other welterweights older than that, and he's in the top 5, and he's probably a guy that could beat anybody on any given day because of his jiu-jitsu. So it's encouraging to see that these guys that that say that maybe you're in your prime and like 28, 29, but you see guys in the early, mid, late 30s still competing at a high level. So it's encouraging to me, and I'm one of those guys. I'm one of those guys that's trying to crack the top 15 right now, and I'll be 35 in a couple months. So
Yeah. Still young and fresh. You got cryotherapy. Your rehab's right on point.
But yeah, getting to the top, definitely the goal. I mean, I plan on calling somebody out in the next couple of days.
Ooh.
Probably like
Uh-oh.
a top 15 guy, or if not a top 15 guy, somebody on the cuffs that with a name that a win over that,
Go
a
for
win
top
over
15.
them.
Go for top 15.
Do it.
Right. Well, it just depends who's available, who has
Sure.
fights, So, but I want to be in the top 15 and get my title crack one day too.
Do you and AJ strategize about what fighters you'd like to match up with, or do you just take what like when the UFC calls and goes, "We got this guy for you"?
No, all the time. That's all we do, man.
Yeah.
We strategize. I mean, I don't want you other managers to steal this from us, but this is what we do. I'll tell you.
It's like I'm going to write a book about it. Go to ellenjovan.com.
We go and we pretty much find, okay, these are the 5 fights. I mean, other people probably do this, but from other fights where there weren't even ranked fighters, what we do is we look for guys, A, who need fights. We look for guys, B, who are coming off of a win, who have momentum. And then C, we look for the guys that would probably be like a good name or a good matchup. And then we get a list of those guys, 30 guys, and we pick which fights fit me the most, maybe make an exciting fight. And then we take those 5 guys, after we narrowed it down, we email it to Joe Silva and we say, look, I'm looking to fight in November. These are 5 guys that are good matchups. They don't have fights yet. They would be a fun fight for the crowd. What do you think? And he comes back and says, yeah, how about this guy? And then so we're pretty much doing 90% of
Their
his
work.
job.
Yeah.
They just have to go eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Why wouldn't he love that? You know what I'm saying? And when we come out, put on a fight of the night performance, everybody wins. So
Boom.
that's been the recipe to our success. AJ's gonna be pissed that I just shared that. But yeah, man. I mean, like, why not take initiative? I mean, like, there's so many people out there that they just let shit happen to them in life. Take initiative. If you're going to take control of your life and your career, if the same thing with calling people out, that's exactly what that is. They're saying, you know what the perfect fight is, and you can make the most money and jump the slots to get to the top 15 the fastest. Call this guy out. Create a Twitter beef, and that's what they do. It's the same thing. It's just I'm not really the type of guy that wants to disrespect people.
Person.
I'm not really a beef guy, so I just kind of do it strategically.
Well, that's what Tyron did. Like, people were asking, "What's the fight you want?" He was like, "I want the moneymaker. I want Diaz," and they gave it to him.
Well,
Did they? Did
he
got it?
didn't.
They're
get it,
talking
huh?
about
No, I
that.
thought they did. I thought they. Am I
Not
wrong?
that I know of. But
I
I
thought
mean,
they announced it.
They're
Am I
speaking
just?
of. Well, let's get on.
I'll Google.
I
it.
heard
If only
something
we
that-
had the internet at our fingertips where we
I
could look
heard
up
something
information.
This is
about
breaking news
about
down
him wanting to fight him at 202.
I thought they announced it.
All I saw was Diaz being. He's like, they need to come to me. I'm the star, but I didn't see him agreeing to it. But
I could be wrong.
unless it happened in the last couple of hours. But no, you like to your point. Yeah, Tyron's smart, man. Tyron's smart because Wonder Boy is really the next guy in line, but he's also probably presents one of the biggest threats. What the interview?
The interview when
was
Wonder
so
Boy was
funny.
like, I'll fight you, but not yet, because I gotta go make money with the Nick Diaz
It was
fight.
funny. He kind of shot down. He kind of
Yeah.
shot him down. But no, I mean, I would do the same thing, man. Tyron's like, I just got the belt. This guy Wonder Boy wants to fight me, but he picked Robbie to win. He said that Robbie was gonna win, and he wants to fight Robbie. It's a more exciting fight. So Tyron beating Robbie, he's like, you know what? You thought you were gonna fight Robbie. You go fight Robbie. He just lost. I'm gonna go for the big payday. I'm gonna fight Diaz or George St. Pierre on a big pay-per-view, make $1 million.
I gotta respect
I would
that.
do the same thing.
What it's still a job. It's your job. It's entertainment for us, but you got to respect Woodley for saying, I want the moneymaker.
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you?
Especially
Right.
this day and age where all the fights, it's not really about like the playoffs or who's ranked here, ranked there. It's about like
We just discussed how much money they're making. Why wouldn't you want to go for
I
making as much as
stand
you fucking
corrected.
can?
The fight is not made yet. I totally made that up.
I don't know if it's gonna happen.
How dare
Honestly,
you?
like
How dare you?
honestly, I think that's. I don't see Diaz getting that. Yeah, he's a name and everybody loves watching him fight, but he's coming off of like an 18-month suspension. He's coming off of a loss. He's coming off of being suspended for doing something wrong. So, like, why would they award him with the title shot? And I feel like it's too good of a matchup for Willie. Willie's just going to take him down and over-muscle him, like, overpower him.
Well, because
I believe.
fights in the UFC don't get made because they're fair. I mean, you could argue that Brock
It's
Lesnar didn't
entertaining.
deserve the fight that he just got.
Right.
You know what I mean? So fights in the UFC aren't always fair.
I did see that St. Pierre he's been talking about coming back forever, and I did see some articles saying that he would accept the fight. I don't know if the fight's been made, but that he would accept the fight against Willie, and I think that would be the best fight, the biggest fight. St. Pierre coming back. These guys are like equal. They're like both 5'10". They're both stocky. They're both great wrestlers with good striking. And George St. Pierre coming back against Tyron Woodley. Throw that fight in like 6 months, or actually Tyron wants to fight sooner, but that would be the big fight to me.
Yeah.
I mean, did Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor make sense to anybody?
Right. That's what I'm saying.
That's-
Fights don't
Especially
always-
at 170, did that make sense to
Yeah,
anybody?
exactly. It's all about the money these days. I said it the other day. Like Dana White doesn't care anymore. If Hulk Hogan wants to fight Shaquille
he doesn't
O'Neal
even try and hide
on
it.
pay-per-view,
Yeah.
and it's gonna make bucks, then look, we're gonna do it. So it's a business.
It is. It's a business, and we all sit there and watch it. So
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
How much control do you as a fighter have? You just talked about how you got fights, but like saying like turning down fights or who your opponent gets to be, and does that increase when you get to be like, does Tyron Woodley get to say no and they'll be okay with it? Like,
Yeah, the more the higher you get, the more pull you have for sure. I've never turned down a fight in my entire career, but I've never also really, like I said, I try to influence Joe Silva on the matchmaking and give him options and do his job. But you don't really have that much pull. I mean, I've tried to add in special requests on my contracts, and they just don't have it. And I've tried to influence certain things, and not until you get to where you're one of the top 5 guys, and there's only certain guys you can fight, or you're the champion. Can you say no? You know what? I want this fight. You know, because you're the champion. What are they going to do? Yeah, you could. It may not be good business for you and your boss, but at the same time, if they want you to fight and you're saying, no, I'm not going to fight this guy, I want to fight this guy, they got, they have to listen to you.
Right now the scales are like this, and then when you're up there in those top rankings, the scales are more like this, and then when you win, then they're a little more.
Hey, have you seen fighters do? You know how musicians and actors put weird stuff in their riders, like when they're
in their what?
In their contract when they're like on location somewhere, like, oh, you have to have green M&Ms in my locker room. Have you seen any fighters like request like, I need a massage therapist, but she's got to be blonde, or you know what I mean?
It ain't happening in the UFC, like I said, unless you're a champion.
Not even Conor
Brock
McGregor.
Lesnar doesn't even get to ask for.
They might
like
get
that.
it, but I've tried. Like, I mean, we don't get that
McGregor.
much. Like each fight, the fighter gets. We get 1 hotel room and 2 flights. One for a flight for me and a flight
So
for my
basically,
coach.
you and Julio and Kevin and AJ are all sharing a
Kenny, yeah.
Kenny, sorry.
So, no, I get it. So everything else is out of my pocket.
Oh,
so
I
when
see.
I have 3 hotel rooms, that's all out of my pocket. When I have, multiple people flying in, that's out of my pocket.
You pay that? Okay.
Yeah, so we pay that. So that, if you look at it, that's thousands of dollars already being deducted out of our purse. You know what I mean? So, so that's one thing that I've been fighting for. Like every contract that I renew with them, I'm like, why don't you just
one other person to come
Why don't
with
you
you
pay
or
for my
something?
corner? Yeah.
Give me an extra room. Give me an extra flight. Make my win bonus a little bit smaller, but give me 3 rooms or something like that. And I haven't been able to get any leeway with that so far. And that's, I think, what they do for the standard fighter. But once you get into the rankings, or maybe not even the rankings, but once you become a champion, then you get the suites.
Connor gets 5 rooms.
You get the big rooms. You get
he gets the whole floor to himself.
Yeah.
One thing that's good that they do that I just found out is for Danielle, for women, they give them 2 rooms because
that makes sense,
obviously
'cause
you're
their
flying.
coaches are usually men.
You're flying to Japan with a guy, your coach. You give him 2 rooms. You know what I mean? So.
Maybe some sponsors would like to pay for Alan's
Extra
There we
rooms.
go.
extra rooms and plane tickets.
Or maybe
Call
get
him.
sponsored by,
Yeah.
the Hyatt.
4 Seasons.
yeah.
They're all over the place.
want
You
the
could just stay there.
I don't want the Marriott. I want the 4 Seasons, damn it.
Look, Marriott allows
Trump.
dogs. Maybe you could bring Buster with you.
Trump. Oh, look, Dana. Dana's good friends with Trump. Trump hotels or something.
dear.
Trump could hook us up. That'd be dope.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe Trump should concentrate on that.
Yeah. Hook up the fighters.
Anyway,
Not a big uproar not a big response when I brought up the Trump.
I heard a story yesterday, totally off subject, 'cause we were talking about age and being 35, being already, up there. There's
Being what?
Being I don't know.
up there,
fucking
tall.
Yeah, tall. There's a 40-year-old gymnast in the Olympics.
Good
Oh,
for
wow.
her.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That's amazing because most of those girls are like 17.
Yeah.
Well, but usually,
I mean,
every
you-
Olympics there is one. There
Usually,
was like a
like,
swimmer that was like 43 last time.
But
and
2021 is old in gymnastics.
That's true.
Yeah.
This chick's 40, and this is
Good
like
for
her
her.
7th run in the Olympics.
who is it? Is it somebody we know?
No, she's
What
in
country?
She's in one of those little countries over
Oh,
by
she's
Russia.
not one of.
Yeah, I was just talking to someone yesterday.
Wait,
about that,
didn't
and I
a
was like,
bunch of Russian athletes get banned from
She's
the
not
Olympics?
Russian, but she's one of
But
those-
that's my question. Didn't a whole
Like
bunch of
entire
Russian athletes
teams.
because they just all pissed hot, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
remember.
like they banned like entire teams from Russia.
happened to
from
me.
the
Yeah.
Olympics.
I remember, wasn't China getting called out for like, are you sure they're 6? Because they have to be 16 or something. Are you sure they're 16? Because they look like they're
They look like they're 12.
13 and 12.
Damn China.
But anyway,
Fucking
yeah.
China. So we'd love to see you back on the mats at 10th Planet. That would be awesome.
That'd be pretty cool.
I know. I need to, man. Honestly, I found that it's easier for MMA fighters to do, like I said, doing 2 jiu-jitsu one day and then 2 this, whatever. Two martial arts a day. It's hard because you're not getting better at a fast rate, and it splits it up too much. If I do jiu-jitsu on Monday and the next time I do jiu-jitsu is Thursday evening, it's like it's hard to get a rhythm. I think you have to do anything like 4 times a week to really be good at it.
That makes sense.
I think like Eddie always, you were talking earlier about how you were focusing more on the striking and kind of let jiu-jitsu kind of fall to the wayside for a little bit. But, Eddie always talks about when we're working on stuff, should we do both sides or should we just work on one side? And for certain things, we do work both sides, but he says master the one side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll get
Oh,
there.
yeah.
You'll get there
Yeah,
faster
anybody
if you master the
Doing
one
lockdown
side.
on
And
the weird side.
yeah, the
Absolutely.
other
I
day I
mean,
was there and I was like, shit, I don't know where my legs are supposed to go on this.
Yeah, you can have one badass leg lock and win EBI probably,
Right.
or not EBI, but I'm just saying you can get very far, one badass move rather than trying to be okay at everything else.
What's
you know?
that?
What does it
What's
say,
that old
Matt?
saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Don't fear the man that knows 1,000 moves. Fear the man that's done one move 1,000 times, or whatever it is, or something like that.
Ah, I like it.
I was
Is it
thinking one.
Bruce Lee,
There's
or is
one
that
where
Maybe
it's like
something like that.
some
yeah.
old Asian guy with a beard?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
something about like master at something or mediocre at everything. There's some
Yeah.
saying like that too.
All the
Jack
same.
of all trades,
There you
master of
go.
none.
There
Yeah,
you go.
what I've been trying to do though to
Something like that.
instead of letting, like you said, my jiu-jitsu fall to the wayside, I've been trying to, when I go to wrestling 2-3 days a week with Kenny Johnson, I'm doing my wrestling, MMA specific wrestling. Then at the end of class, I'll try to merge in, work some guillotines at the end, or when we hit the mat, then work submissions. That way, I'm not just letting my jiu-jitsu slack, but it's not just pure jiu-jitsu. So
Just
it's
not a
just
focus.
tough, man. It's not a focus. It's just there's so much shit to learn. And it's not only learning in MMA, but it's like keeping it sharp. Once you become, let's say you're a black belt, I can only do this with one finger.
Aw.
Black belt.
Quote. Oh, look at that. Physical therapy. What's up? Once you become
Shout out to the physical therapist.
exactly, healing hands and Sino. Once you become a black belt at every martial art, let's say, then you're not really learning. You're always still learning, I get it, but you're not really learning new shit all the time. It's more about just staying sharp,
perfecting
staying
it. Sure. Yeah.
fluid. You just want to stay good at it. When Anderson Silva comes back, he's not like learning new shit again. He's just going through the routine to make sure his body's sharp again. And that's kind of like what it gets to the point once you've been fighting long enough in MMA that you're really doing. You're not really learning new stuff all the time. You want to add new tools to your game, but you really just want to make sure that everything is looking sharp and fluid. And to do that is just, it's so tough.
Well, how many
to
times
go
have
through
you thrown a hook in the last 15 years of your life? Probably a million times.
right.
But the more you throw it, the more it commits to your gene yourself.
Yeah,
And so
it's in your DNA, like Eddie says. It's just, but you're just making sure it's sharp.
Yeah.
It's on point. But yeah, it's hard, man. MMA is hard to keep everything sharp all the time. There's always, no matter what guys tell you, there's always going to be one thing that they're slacking in because they weren't able to keep that area sharp.
Yeah, it's
of course. Even just in one discipline. I mean, in jiu-jitsu, like you focus on one thing for a while, and then you're like, oh shit, I forgot. Last year we were doing this stuff, and that's kind of.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
My guard's weak because I've been working leg locks or whatever. Yeah.
There's so many things just in a single discipline, let alone trying to include all.
Yeah, for sure. So Black House, for everybody who doesn't know, is a world famous fighter den. Like everybody trains at Black House. When you first started training there, was there a bit of being starstruck with training with Lyoto Machida or something like that?
Yeah,
and have
sure.
you seen that switch now that like you're a guy that's been in the UFC for a while and the new guys that are coming in, like do you see them being like, dude, I just sparred with Alan Jouban today?
They're like, who? Yeah, no, it's funny that you say that because it's true. It's true. And I mean, Kenny Johnson's really the one that promotes that, because when we first started going over there, when I first started going there, Machida and Anderson Silva were two guys that not only I was probably the biggest fan of, but I studied the most. They were both southpaw strikers, and so all their tricks, I would always watch them in slow motion to see what they were doing. So I'd studied all their technique, and now I'm training with these guys. It was kind of a little bit of starstruck, but then obviously, that goes away once you start training. And so I was training with them for a while, and everybody over there for a while. But now that I've been over there for about 3 years, and we've seen the new crop of guys come in, now, like a lot of us that were in the RFA, me, Kevin Casey, Pedro, James Muntashri, all these guys, we're all in the UFC now. And now we're seeing these new crop go to the RFA and everything. So Kenny pretty much is the one that says it. He's like, the old guard, the Machidas, the Anderson Silvas, they're still fighting, but they're further along in their career. The new guys, Alan Jouban and James and Kevin, these guys that are holding down Black House now, they're the crop in the UFC making the thing. But you new guys need to come up. We can't just let it fall flat there. After we're done in 5 years, who's going to replace us? So these new guys are coming up, and you see it. It's the evolution. I mean, fighting, is a short career. You can't do it forever. So you always have to have new guys coming up, and you see it in jiu-jitsu too, man. I watch these. I haven't been at HQ in a while, but when I watch the videos and stuff, I see all these guys that were like blue belts or white belts back in the day, and now they're like Eddie's go-to purple belt show the video guy. You know what I mean? I'm like, these guys are looking sharp as hell.
Yeah, it's exciting to watch that happen. Yeah, we've all been around long enough, we're starting to see that now. That you see the guys that I remember when you first started training, and now you're an assassin, and it's really cool to watch that. And I'm just as big a fan of all of our teammates as I am anything else. Like it's cool to watch all that happen. Speaking of that, we have a thing that we do called Women Crush Wednesday. I know everybody does it, but we do it here too. Eddie pointed that out. He's like, "Oh, did you think you made that up?"
Did you make that up?
Nobody.
So at HQ, there are a group of girls coming in to train with me and Lila on Tuesdays, and they're part of a nonprofit organization called Inner City Visions, and they all live in the Watts area of Los Angeles. And so through our MMA coach at HQ, Rob Rodriguez, we got hooked up with these ladies, and they're coming in and training now, and they're all between the ages of 14 and 18. They call themselves Team Glow, Girls Leading Our World. They came up with that by themselves.
That's cute.
And it's adorable. And they're coming in and they're learning how to...
They need some Team Glow shirts.
I'm working on it. It's happening.
All right.
Okay. Sure. So they're coming in and they're learning how to train. They're starting off the jiu-jitsu, and we're going to move to striking in a few months and teach these girls about the world of combat sports. And so I just wanted to give a big shout out to them today. They're my Women Crush Wednesday. What's up, Team Glow, ladies? I'm really proud of them. They show up and they work hard. And,
so they're 18. I mean, they're teenagers who came in a rough neighborhood, and you guys are like sponsoring them to train at the gym.
Correct.
Or okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Eddie was kind enough to give us the time to get on the mats, and we made a deal with them because, as it sometimes happens when you grow up in rough neighborhoods or not in rough neighborhoods, you fight when you're a teenager. So we made the deal with the ladies that except in cases of self-defense, no more fighting. And we will teach you how to fight and teach you the respect and the art of martial arts and, you know, the world of combat sports, and hopefully open some doors for them to let them see that there's this really cool world that exists that is all about discipline and respect and you know, coming together with people from all over everywhere.
And you're giving them access to something that they may have never been able to get to.
Did it seem like some of them were fighters already?
The first time I met with them, I was like, how many of you guys have been in a fight? And they were all like,
like who hasn't?
Right. They were pretty funny. So that's when we made the deal. I'm like, all right, no more fighting.
Nice.
So they come, and a lot of them haven't worked out before, and we made a deal like no more soda, and they have to start writing down what they eat. So
Wow.
hopefully, it's a thing. It's a whole
program.
team.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Nice.
those ladies are awesome, and also we have a kids program at headquarters that I'm one of the coaches, and we are trying to raise money for the kids for competitions and uniforms and all the things that you raise money for kids programs for. And Alan has been kind enough to sign a pair of MMA gloves and one of his Topps cards. You have like baseball cards.
I got my own trading cards, guys.
Was that something you dreamed of? Did you dream of that as a soccer player? Do they do soccer?
Yeah.
Soccer
I
cards
still have all my old football cards and everything, like rookie cards. So yeah, it's dope to have
That's awesome.
my own Topps card.
Cage gets to have his dad's card.
Yeah.
But Alan signed these things for us. So if you would like to enter the raffle that we are going to have for these items, send me a message. I can email you the raffle tickets, and you can like PayPal me the money, and no matter where you are, you can participate in the raffle, and all the money will go towards the 10th Planet HQ Kids program. So that would be awesome. And Bex, you got any shout outs?
So, I do.
Give them.
I do. Shout out. I got 3 people today. Joe Kai, thanks for listening, and he says he's now a fan, which is pretty awesome.
We like fans.
Thanks so much for taking the time. Our good friend Michael Plaster for always showing us love and, you know,
Definitely.
helping and supporting us and doing whatever he can. I know, since day one he's been there. So thanks to him. And another new fan, Sean Daughtry.
Yep. He's going to be on the show in a couple weeks. He has an interesting story. He was on UFC 2, and he was Big John McCarthy's first Let's Get It On. His fight.
He was a fighter on UFC too.
That was his first fight. So,
Wow.
or it wasn't his first fight. It was Big John McCarthy's first time using that catchphrase.
Oh, nice.
And that was
Very
his
cool.
fight. And he's a really interesting dude. He has an interesting story. He contacted me through the magic of Facebook. Jiu-Jitsu connects us all over the world. Somebody contacted me over something else, and he was like, "You got to talk to my friend Sean." Sean sent me a message, and I'm like, "You sound interesting. Let's talk to you." So, there's that. And last thing before I let everybody go, MattTherapyApparel.com. We are live, bitches. And September 11th, we are having our
September 18th.
Thank you. September 18th. There's something going on September 11th, too, that I'll mention. We're having our first no-gi sub-only tournament in Pasadena. Please go to MattTherapyApparel.com. Check it out. Come compete. Everybody is welcome. It's going to be awesome. And then on September 11th, Lila and I are doing a women's self-defense one-day seminar at 10th Planet HQ the morning before EBI.
And breathe.
That is all.
And breathe.
Alan, if everybody who's listening and watching who doesn't follow you on social media yet, how dare you? Where can they find you to follow you and support you?
Check me out at Alan Jouban, AlanJouban, and that's pretty much
That's on
all
everything?
On all the
Insta?
things.
Yeah,
Insta, Twitter, Facebook.
and Insta stories.
Are you
the
doing
new
Insta
thing.
stories now?
I did one of them yesterday this morning for the hell of it.
Oh, I
but
saw it.
Hey,
Kinda
people can
really-
see your new pergola that you're building.
Yeah, I'm done with it. So check out
I've
my
never
pergola.
heard the word pergola
I know.
until you said it the other day.
I had to make sure I was spelling it right as well. But yeah,
I think I had to look it up.
All right, well, there it is. Bexford.
I just got Snapchat like 2 weeks ago, and now Instagram makes this damn change, and now I'm like, what?
I'm happy because I didn't want to get Snapchat. I just want to. I'm happy.
I didn't want to get it either, but I gave in,
five
and
social
now I'm
media.
like,
Social
seriously,
medias.
literally, I'm not kidding. Maybe 3 weeks later, this happens, and I was like,
Yeah.
You know it's
I
possible to just delete that, right?
I know,
You don't
just-
have to use it.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
But if
It's
people
still,
do
like,
want
what
to
the fuck?
use it, where can they find you?
BeckyDominguez.com. You can find all the links to my thing, but everything's at Bex and Violence.
Bex and Rock. Oh, Bex,
Bex and
and
Violence.
Bex
not
and rock and
not
roll.
sex and violence like this one tried to type in earlier.
Bex and drugs.
Bex and Violence.
Bex and Violence. Hey, Lee,
Hello.
If anybody has any podcasting needs, where should they go?
They should go to LisaHyattConsulting.com.
Oh, fancy.
Consulting?
Very fancy.
Oh my
exciting.
god! I'm gonna start using consulting after everything I
Right?
do
You
now.
should.
It sounds so much cooler.
I would really love is my mom and now my girlfriend are lawyers. They have Esquire.
Mom
Esquire.
and now your girlfriend.
Fancy.
Well, no, mom and girlfriend. She just took the bar. Not the same person.
Okay. On
Let's
that
separate
note,
the two.
Congratulations.
Good for you? Question mark.
Ellen, thank you so much for coming on. We can't
you,
wait
thank
till
you.
you heal
Thank
and
you,
get back
guys.
in the cage. You can find all my things at donnagonzalez.com, matttherapyapparel.com, or 10thplanetwomen.com.
You have
Hit
too
me
many
up.
goddamn
I have way too many of them.
websites.
We will see you next week. Peace out, bitches. Thank you.
Deuces.